Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support this appropriations bill, Mr. President, secure in the belief that this government has the vision, it has the leadership, and we have the intention to deliver on the programs and the activities that are being, for which funds are being appropriated or set aside in this appropriations bill. Now, coming as I am at the end of 3 days of discussion and debate, I have had the opportunity to listen to my honorable colleagues in this House, and I've heard many things. And as the final speaker, I think I have a responsibility to respond to just a couple of them before I get into what I really want to talk about today, which is transformation as it relates to Barbados making that transition to a digital economy. I have heard questions about wanting to learn more. I've heard those questions from Senator Nurse. He wanted to learn more about agriculture. And Senator Nurse, I don't know if you had the opportunity to hear the discourse that happened in the well in the other place, where agriculture was indeed one subject. But if I were to encapsulate some of what agriculture is seeking to do, they're seeking to move to more contemporary farming methods, using greenhouses and aquaponics and hydroponics. They are looking to exploit the full value of the black belly sheep, which you know is indigenous to Barbados, looking at byproducts that can command higher premiums and the seed stock as well, and looking to diversify the farming opportunities. You would have heard that there are a number of other opportunities in agriculture that they're seeking to pursue, including beehives making honey, and of course you would have also heard of medical cannabis. And of course, looking at the cotton industry in a very different way. There is more, but I have limited time today. So I just wanted to share with you that the estimates of expenditure and revenue, which are in front of you, certainly lays out a very interesting set of programs in there, and we'd be happy to chat with you about what else we are doing as a government as it relates to agriculture. Now, I have also heard the suggestions on how else to fund priorities from particularly those at the QEH, from Senator Maynard. And he has made some very good suggestions as to how Barbadians can continue to participate as contributors using the special provisions in the Income Tax Act that will allow people to make that contribution and be able to basically get an income tax benefit as a result. I have heard Senator Drake's comment on this government's nimbleness in fiscal policy. She used a different term. We choose to call it being able to adapt, being able to read our situation, look at the threats, look at the opportunities before us, and be able to leverage that to the benefit of the people of Barbados. So we thank you very much for highlighting that, and we do in fact see it as a plus rather than anything else. I also have heard Senator Boyce. He commended our government on our debt reduction efforts. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of the economic team and the rest of the government, we really are grateful that you and all of Barbados, that you are recognizing that we are making a difference as a government. You also had a set of wishes. And while, sir, I cannot pretend to be your genie, the Prime Minister of Barbados, in her budgetary delivery just a short while ago, she made it clear that from July 1st, individuals who are owed income tax refunds for the years 2011 to 2016 will receive up to $1,000 in cash. That's 63,000 households that will be impacted by that. That's more cash in their pocket, and hopefully, and also an opportunity for us to reduce debt, as that is indeed something that we owe as a bank. And for the companies who are owed VAT and income tax, 2011 to 2011 to 2016, you will receive up to $10,000. This will be repaid in full for those above that amount, I'm sorry, 42 equal monthly installments will be made starting May 1st for the balance of that amount. So I am hoping that that gives you at least some pleasure when you leave here, that at least one of your wishes has already been met by the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Finance and this current government. Now, of course, there is then the entertaining Mr. Senator Franklin. And Senator Franklin, there are just two things that I want to speak to that he would have raised. The first is about the new process of the estimates. And one of the things Senator Franklin sought to say is that, in fact, a wrong was being done to the public officers. And I just wanted to share with him that the appearance of public officers before committees of Parliament, especially in that other place, is nothing new. In fact, the standing orders allow for that to happen. And this, they will recall that in that other place, at the time when the permanent secretaries and the technical persons were brought into the well, that other place had dissolved into a committee. And so it is not unusual, nor is it considered a wrong, that indeed persons can indeed be called before that committee. And you will remember that in the 2013-2018 session, the Public Accounts Committee had called before them a number of persons, including a bank manager, not just public servants, when they were making an inquiry into the NHC, the National Housing Corporation matter. So indeed, I would not want there to be any misinformation that some wrong or something was being done to public servants in that situation. And I want to share just very quickly my experience, because this was something new. A number of public servants were, in fact, somewhat a little nervous, as all of us would be in an unfamiliar situation. But I'll tell you what my experience was in very short order. In preparing to go into the well, our team had to come together for some long hours and late nights. We were there up until 2:15 one morning. These are public servants. And then after the experience in the well, the team spirit had been so impacted that it was felt in our management meetings. We had each other's backs. The whole spirit of team was very different. People were calling each other up and offering help on particular things. And that spirit has continued to this moment. So I just wanted to say that while perhaps it may have been somewhat challenging for others who had not done this before and who were unfamiliar, there were also some byproducts of this that certainly contributes to building a more cohesive team across the public service. And this government certainly believes that while the ministers may be responsible for policy, moving legislation, as we would in this parliament, it is the public servants who are responsible for executing the very programs that we're seeking to have funded in this appropriation bill. It is the permanent secretary who is the chief accounting officer responsible for how funds are being spent. And it is the technocrats that provide the advice that enable us to do the right things from a technical perspective. And if indeed we are all part of one team, it would be inconsistent with the philosophy of team to therefore hold only a minister accountable, when indeed it is an entire team working as one cohesive unit that will make the difference to the way we will transform the public service. And so I say, it was a good thing, and let us continue to do a good thing. I will move on at this point from what I have heard. And a number of my colleagues on this side have already shared what this government discovered when we came into government, when we came into office in late May. I will not repeat that. What I will instead do is something that my grandmother has always taught me. She says, honey, you carry forward the lesson, not the burden. And so I want to talk about the lessons we can carry forward from this. The first is that decisions without data are dangerous decisions. When this government came into office, we found the data, whether it was the statistical data or it was information on files, in an abysmal state. Persons had not reported, accounts were not kept in the way that they ought to have been, statistics were not taken in the way they were. Data was either incomplete, not clean, because you couldn't rely on it, or it was non-existent, including some of the files we were trying to find that are still non-existent. So that was lesson number one that we carry forward. And this government is now doing the best we can to seek to clean the data and build the data sets that we need in order to make better decisions. A second lesson that this has taught us is to never underestimate the desire of the public service to contribute to moving Barbados out of this situation. Public servants have not only made the sacrifice in terms of some of the displacement that was caused after the restructuring exercise, but the unions who represent the public servants, who are part of the social partnership, were part of putting solutions on the table as to how we could go forward doing what we needed to do to bring recovery to this country, to reduce our expenses within government. They were a part of that team and made that contribution as well. And I have shared with you the way, and you have all seen the way in which the public servants participated in the entire estimates exercise. And I think that, and certainly my experience has been, as I have been going from ministry to ministry and have worked with people across the system, that public servants are committed. And in anything we have to do to bring recovery to this country, let us not forget the lessons that the public servants are with us too. A third lesson I think we've learned is the sophistication of our general public when it comes to taking collective responsibility for the recovery of this country. If we look at what we were able to achieve in terms of the debt exchange, a resounding 97.6% uptake of the debt exchange, where people understood the economics of some rather than none, where they could get back some of their money, they could make a decision to get repaid over a longer period of time, and it was better than getting none, which could have been an option that this government has taken. And so when we talk about our public not being as sophisticated or as engaged, they understood the economics, as I said, of some over none. And they stepped forward and took collective responsibility for the recovery of this country. And I say, the fourth lesson I think we carry forward is that of the goodwill of international funding institutions. Whether it was the IDB, it was the IMF, it was the CDB, it was the World Bank, number of agencies. Once Barbados determined that it was going to take the hard decisions, demonstrated that we had a plan for executing on those decisions. And then we went ahead very bravely and boldly and did some things that others said would have been impossible. Once we did that, the international funding agencies came on board. And so I think that as a country, it's important we understand. We need data. We understand that we must carry the very people that are part of the system with us, our public servants. We accept that the public is far more sophisticated than we sometimes will give them credit for. Indeed, the public understand collective responsibility, and they do understand the economics of people together moving a country, and finally, the goodwill of those around us. Let us never forget as we move forward. Now, the second part of what I was going to talk about is what we would have done. But I believe that there has been quite an expose of all that this government has done at this point. And I'm going to pass that very quickly. And I'm going to go instead to what this government is prepared to champion. When we look at the estimates of expenditure and revenue, one of the things that we will notice is that there is a significant investment in people. 11 million in social programming. Among them, the First Jobs Initiative, a national training program, opportunities for youth to engage in sports, in culture, to do skills development. Health and education remain the largest recipients of public funds. And we continue to make sure that we are taking care of our elderly and those who will require public assistance in order to be able to themselves live the kind of life that we all would like to live. And so we are willing to champion people, and our investment in people as part of this appropriation bill reflects that. We are also willing to champion sustainable development. And without going into great detail, to share a little bit about what maritime and blue economy will be doing. In fact, Senator Grant mentioned some work needing to be done in Oistins, where there is that nexus with what we are doing and what the marine and blue economy would be doing, and tourism, for example. Certainly the first thing we are seeking to champion is the establishment of a value of our ocean space. Many people are coming and making all kinds of proposals to us, but unless we know what the true value is of that space, we will be negotiating in the dark. And that is part of truly having information or data that allows us to make the best decisions and to be able to negotiate to the benefit of the people of Barbados. The Ministry of Blue Economy and Maritime is also seeking to make the ocean our business. And so they're focusing on marine managed areas that will enhance the fish stock and protect the coral. I know, yes, Senator Drakes is very happy. They're also looking to transform and improve the fish markets, as Senator Grant would have mentioned. And in fact, I am told that the contracts have already been settled for Oistins, for Speightstown, and for Bridgetown. And some work has started on 2 of those already. And so we are continuing to see that transformation happen. And of course, the intention is to, again, making the ocean our business to ensure that we can export, which is something we are unable to do in certain parts of the world at this time. Now, I could go on, but I am going to stop here because I know the evening is late and there has been much discourse on this for the last 3 days. And I'm going to move now very quickly into my space, the Ministry of Innovation, Science, and Smart Technology. Barbados is heading into a digitally empowered future. And that future will be on a highway of connectivity, of innovation, of technology, and of talent. And it takes us being able to make all of those work together in order to help Barbados make the transition into a digital space. It takes us working together with the private sector, with academia, with partners within Barbados, outside of Barbados, with civil society. Because indeed, the future to which we are looking is that of a safe and modern Barbados that is globally connected, that is competitive in a digital space, where our people treat the world as our business and our business the world. That is the future to which we're heading. And so the Ministry of Innovation, Science, and Smart Technology, which I have the honor to head at this time, we are moving apace to lay the foundation for Barbados to make that transition. No one starts to build without a solid foundation. If not, we find as if we were building a building, we get up to ring beam and we put on that roof and we put in those windows, and one high wind comes and it comes tumbling down. And so we are taking the time to plan and to build a solid foundation on which we will be able to do several things, all with the aim of making it easy to do business in Barbados, all with the aim of reducing the transaction costs to everyday people and to businesses, all with the cost, with the intention of reducing costs to government, all with the cost, with the intention of meeting the expectations of the public in a citizen-centered government. And so, reliable and affordable digital services of government has to be a priority. How will we do that? We have to go across government and we have to look at what are the core services of every single ministry, department, and agency. And either support them or help to drive the process of those departments who are seeking to deconstruct the processes and reconstruct the processes that lead to them delivering that service to the public. It's called modernization. And so while people talk about digitization, digitization is just a part of modernization. Modernization is really what we first need to do. And we need to modernize our processes. We need to modernize our technologies. We need, pardon me?
We need to modernize the state.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to modernize the skills of people. Even as I see a number of the senators in here now with their newfound iPads, I recognize that, again, they're new skills that even us in this room around this table have to have in order to make sure that we're moving into that digital space, into that space where hopefully in another few years, this will be no more. Already the Cabinet of Barbados has led by example with the Prime Minister herself blazing the trail. The Prime Minister had set the 1st of April to be the day when the Cabinet would be paperless. We started that 2 weeks ago. We are ahead of the schedule. And so when we get that kind of leadership coming from the top, it sends the message to the rest of the country that Barbados is serious, that we intend to follow through on our vision, even from the very top. And in addition to modernizing processes, we will also be modernizing the environment in which people work. Now, I know the social partnership has already started on looking at a new structure of work. Will people be coming into the offices 9 to 5? Perhaps not. That is still being finalized, and so I would not want to preempt the work that they're doing. But those are some of the things they're talking. Where will we work from? How will we work? What supports will we need at work? What will the new workspace look like? Does it need to look? This table, perhaps in several years, will have ports for us to plug in straight across the middle. Who knows? The buildings that we're in, are they the kind of buildings that make it very easy for signals to come through, to pass through? We know that even here in this very building and other buildings, because of the makeup of the walls and the thickness of some of the doors, the way in which the places had to be wired to ensure connectivity had to be done differently. And so the very environments in which we work will eventually change. But the transformation that has to happen will not happen from my ministry. It will happen all across. You would have heard Senator Cummings talk about some of the transformation that is happening at the port. Every ministry has to take responsibility for its own transformation. And technology comes at the end of the process. It is important that we understand that this transformation is really a change process, a change management process, where we first have to be aware of what it is and why it is we need to change. We have to make sure that the people who are part of that process have the desire to change and be part of that change. We have to ensure that they know how to change once they're aware and have that desire. We have to make sure that they then have the ability to change. And then we have to find interesting ways to continue to be consistent and reinforce that change. And so there's lots of work to be done. Some of the resources for that we will get from in-house, some from outside of Barbados. Because as we know, we saw in the exercise on population that Barbados is quickly going down a road where we may not have the workforce to support the future that we need, the future we want, and the future we intend. And we will therefore have to look within and look without in order to bring the resources to bear on this dear country of ours. And I wanted to share that there is a plan going forward. It is not just this is what we're doing and we throw it out there. We have identified the first movers. We cannot move all of government at the same time with everything. And as part of the IDB-funded, Inter-American Development Bank-funded modernization program, 7 agencies have been identified to go first. And those agencies were identified based on the feedback from the public and from the business sector, who have said to us, we need the services in these areas to be first movers as we move forward. Town and country planning, the Customs Department, Immigration Department, the Police Department, the Barbados Licensing Authority, the Registration Department, particularly as it relates to births and deaths and the court system, and international business. And so, international business. And so, pardon me? International business. Correct. And so they will be the first movers over the next 18 to 24 months. And specific services, we will start with small projects and then build. Again, taking it all at once is not a wise approach with a change that is this massive. And so you may see the certificate of character go through a change. You may see the driver's licenses, how you access that service, go through a change. You may see the liquor license and your entertainment license go through a change. And you may even see a change in how you get work permits and passports. How much information you have to give to whom and when. The intention is that we eventually transition to a point where we adopt a once-only policy for government, where you give your information to any agency of government only once, but that we are able to connect the systems in such a way, and through the exchange of information, be able to deliver to the people a seamless, hassle-free service and access to the services, all services of government. It is where we are headed, but it is brick by brick by brick that we build it. Now again, I could continue more, but after 3 days of debate, I think I can say quite honestly that I have not heard a single dissenting voice about this appropriations bill around this table. And while I am being told by Senator Boyce that perhaps Senator Franklin may have been a dissenting voice, I believe the Hansard will bear me out that he started his presentation with the fact that he, in fact, supported this. And so we know that his morning word and his evening word may change. And in this case, we choose to hold him to his very first word, his morning word. Mr. President, as I come to a close, this appropriations bill talks about where we will put our money. But the transformation that this country needs is going to be about where we put our minds. And in terms of where I started, I also want to end with where we want Barbados to put our minds. It is that safe, that modern Barbados that is globally connected, that is competitive in a digital space, where our people treat the world as our business, and our business is the world. With those few words, I'm obliged to you. Before I make this motion, I wish to thank the police officers, the clerks, and the staff who for the last 3 days and into the night have been there for us. And with these words, Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill again be read a second time.
Discussion be now read a second time. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I now beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
Question is that the appropriation bill under discussion be now read a third time. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Appropriations Bill 2019.
Question is that this appropriation bill be now passed and be so cited. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. So the bill is now passed and will be so cited.
Mr. President, I beg to move that the sitting be now adjourned until next Wednesday. At 11 a.m.
Question is that the Senate be now adjourned until next Wednesday, the 3rd of April at 11 a.m. All honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it, and this session is now adjourned.